Yo, what's happening, everybody? My name is Anthony Carenti, back with another episode of the Gridiron Drive, joined as always by my co-host Peter Traina. Pete, we made it. Football week. We're here. The games are coming. It's all done. It's time to buckle up. NFL season's here. How are we feeling?
It's beautiful, man. It's so beautiful.
It's just the best. We've finally made it. We are going to be previewing everything that's happening for the most part in week one so far. We're going to save, the best game. We'll leave Monday night out of it for now till when the New York Jets head into San Fran and beat up on Purdy a little bit. But that's for another show. Right now, we're going to talk about everything else. Thursday night's game, Friday night's game, the full Sunday slate. Get into it, what we're watching, how we're leaning, what we're thinking is going to happen. Get into the whole slate of it. Pete, you got anything to add there before we dive into Thursday night football goodness?
No, just wanted to remind everybody, if you're watching on YouTube, give us a like, subscribe, and all the podcasts, rate, review, 5 stars, all that stuff is super important, and we greatly appreciate that.
We very much do. It is, and in case you don't know, it's free. Doesn't even cost you any money. Just takes a little bit of time, but not enough time to really do like the time is money sort of thing. Takes like a couple seconds to hit like, hit subscribe, leave a 5-star rating on whatever podcast platform /. All right, Friday night, the elusive Friday night game. It's another good one. We got Green Bay. The Green Bay Packers heading to Philadelphia to play the Philadelphia
they're in Brazil,
Eagles.
Actually, right?
Oh, yeah, it is in Brazil.
Yeah,
That's
it's
right.
in Brazil, yeah.
That's right. It is in Brazil. All that weird stuff where like they said the players can't go outside. Like they can't have their phones outside or something. They can't put
wear
on their
green.
phone. Can't wear green. Yeah, the Eagles are wearing like black and white, right?
Mm-hmm.
Black helmet, white jersey, black pants. It's a weird feeling.
Interesting.
Yeah, this is another pretty interesting one to me. So last season, the Packers were 9-8. Jordan Love had the big year. The Eagles were 11-6. The big year from Jalen Hurts, productivity-wise, for fantasy's sake. Where are we at with this one with the numbers? What do we got for the spread? What do we got for the total?
This is an interesting game. It opened up the Packers plus 1.5, and I think that seems about right. And the over/under is opened up at 48.5, and you can get a 49 now. Still some 48.5s lingering there. These are two interesting teams because they kind of went opposite directions last year. The Packers really kind of turned it on towards the end of the year. They beat up on the Cowboys late in the playoffs, and the Eagles kind of fell out of their consistency. But I have these teams also similarly ranked. I have them 9th and 11th, and I have them basically ranked as a percentage point from each other. So looking at my numbers here, again, I have this game as basically, my numbers came out with a 24-23 Packers. So judging by that, I like the money line for the Packers slightly, and I would like the under slightly, but that's too slim of margins for me to actually be betting that kind of under. It's interesting though in Brazil. I don't know if it's like a Mexico City kind of deal where is it like a Denver kind of deal where it's like the oxygen is going to mess up the players. Right. I don't think Brazil is like that, but they're just not home. So it really depends on who travels better. I know that sounds weird, but like whoever gets there and has more time to acclimate themselves there. But I do like the Packers money line. I wouldn't take the points just because if it's under 3, I usually like to take the money line and get that extra juice. It's worth the price most of the time. If you're covering 2.5, you're usually winning outright. Now that's not like an automatic, but that's how I like to go about that. What are you looking forward to? You got any leans? Players
biggest thing I'm looking forward to is how does the Packers wide receiver group shake out? Because I'm not the biggest believer in Christian Watson. I think he's got talent, but I think he can never stay healthy. And I think eventually that will be a detriment to him, but not necessarily the team, because I think Dontavian Wicks is a very good player who could step in and be more than capable there. Aside from that, I'm interested to see if Jaden Reed, not necessarily can he keep up the touchdown pace from last year because he was scoring them at a pretty unreal clip. But I think he's a really good player who can win in a variety of ways. And I expect him to emerge as like the full-bodied, quote unquote wide receiver one there. But really, I'm looking at, does Wicks eat into any of the Watson market share early? Like, can Wicks get on the field either ahead of Christian Watson or out there pretty regularly, even if he's not directly taking from him? So I think he's a good player, and it really wouldn't shock me if by the end of the year, consensus was leaning more towards Wicks as the more productive player or the better, fantasy asset than Christian Watson. And then on the Philly side, to me, it's not necessarily how does Saquon mesh, but how does Saquon either directly or indirectly impact Jalen Hurts? Because Jalen Hurts was great for fantasy. We know what he could do for fantasy. We know a lot of it came from the tush push, which is fine, cheat code kind of play. Mm-hmm. But I always come back to wondering, like, number one, is the tush push the same without Jason Kelce? Number two, does some of that, like, you're going to run Saquon Barkley, right? Like, you paid Saquon Barkley feature back money to come be the guy. So some of those Hurts running plays or some of those Hurts running plays, not only do they turn into Saquon running plays, but do they turn into Saquon short passing plays as kind of like an extension of the running game?
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see how that all plays out in the Philly offense early on. And of course it could change down the stretch, but the wide receivers are great. We know that already. I guess the little tidbit I'm interested in is, like, does Jahan Dotson get out there and, acclimate himself early? I'm not playing him in fantasy, and I think he'll be a better, NFL player for them than he ever will be a startable fantasy asset, but still interesting to me to see if he can get out there. What are you looking forward to in this one? Any leans or predictions? How you feeling about the outcome?
Yeah, I kind of touched on that before. I like the Packers money line. I think I haven't placed that bet, but I would probably lean that way. This is the Eagles are interesting, man. They have a new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator. Last year, if you blitz Jalen Hurts, they didn't give him enough like hot routes, enough quick outs for him. And sometimes he bailed the quote coaching out, but I want to see that. I want to see if they have something built in for him, and I want to see if the Packers can build upon what they had last year. Was it real, or was it just kind of there wasn't enough tape on Jordan Love?
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I believe in Jordan Love, but it's fair. We've got one season on tape, so fair to want to see more. All right, the last of what we considered our marquee matchups for the week, kicking off the Sunday slate, the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Miami Dolphins. Two teams that were pretty good last year. The Dolphins finished 11-6, second in the AFC East. The Jaguars were 9-8, second in the AFC South. We've talked a little bit about some of these teams recently. I mentioned recently that I think the Jaguars could be in spot to win the division in the AFC South, and the Dolphins are, a good enough team to win a lot of divisions, but they're in what should be a very competitive AFC East. What's the spread telling us? What's the over-under telling us in this one?
All right. The Battle of Florida, right?
Yeah. Florida man watches a football game.
This spread, it opened up at 3.5 for the Jags, plus 3.5 for the Jags. You can get some nicely priced threes if you want. There's still some 3.5s around. The over-under opened up at 49.5, and it's holding steady at 49.5. So interesting, man. I have these teams, again, pretty similarly ranked. I have the Jags here. They're about a 13th ranked team. And I have, the Dolphins as my 12th ranked team. I have them ranked exactly the same in terms of power ranking, like number-wise. So when I put this in, I'm getting a 23-25 Dolphins win. So with that, I guess, I like the Jags a little bit, plus 3, but I wouldn't bet that in the under 49. That's also a little bit risky with those two teams. But what do you have any key matchups or like players to watch for you?
Brian Thomas Jr.
Yeah.
Brian Thomas Jr. I think that he really kind of, I don't want to, not has the keys to the offense, like because Trevor Lawrence has the keys to the offense. But
Yeah.
I think Brian Thomas is what this offense lacked.
Oh, yeah.
Like you're talking about a big body guy that has legitimate downfield speed. And Trevor's had some good weapons, and there was good weapons there already. Like Kirk's a good player. They had Gabe Davis. We know what ETN can do as a runner and a receiver, but they didn't have a Brian Thomas Jr.
No.
Calvin Ridley went over 1,000 last year, but Brian Thomas Jr. is a different kind of player. And I think he's going to get going earlier than maybe a lot of the fantasy community is expecting. And I think he's going to be a really productive receiver for them this year. So that's what I'm most looking forward to is can he get going early? Can he rip the top off that Miami defense and kind of establish himself early? Any final predictions or leans in this one?
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to touch this game, man. But I will say that the Jags are a really interesting team. I like what they got going on. Did you know that Evan Ingram last year, I think he had the second most receptions for a tight end ever.
Big time weapon there. He really has he really has come into honestly being a pretty consistent player now too. Good for him. Like the early I remember years ago in those Giants years saying multiple times I'm getting off the Evan Ingram roller coaster. I'm not playing this player. I'm not rostering
he had the
this player
dropsies.
anymore.
He would drop the ball all the time.
But he's really found himself in a good situation there, and they seem to know how to use him. Trevor seems to have a connection with him.
Yeah. And there was I watched a 2-minute video of Calvin Ridley drops last year, or slightly where he had one toe out of bounds. It wasn't probably 2 minutes, but it was a pretty big montage of almost touchdowns for Trev. So
yeah,
I like
Ridley had a weird year.
Yeah. 1,000 yards, but it just wasn't
yards,
sexy. Yeah.
Yeah, 1,000 yards wasn't really eye popping. And to be fair, he hadn't played football in whatever it was, 2 years or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be interesting for sure. All right. Those three games are the ones we identified as the marquee matchups. We're going to get into the games that we view as kind of the secondary matchups, spend a little bit less time on them, and then at the end kind of hit the ones that maybe aren't quite as sexy. The games that we're going to mention them, we're going to give some thoughts, but spend a little less time on them. So kicking off the secondary matchups as we have them labeled, Steelers-Falcons at 1 o'clock. A lot of change for both of these teams. The Steelers were 10-7 last year, went to the playoffs. The Falcons did not. The Falcons were 7-10. Lots changed for both of these teams. We've got new quarterbacks everywhere. Kirk's in Atlanta. We got Russ and Justin Fields in Pittsburgh. It's the Russell Wilson show for now. What are the points telling us in the line in this one? And we touching any of it?
Yeah, this opened up at 2.5 for the Steelers. It moved to 3. And it opened up at 43 for the over-under. And now it's at 42.5. This is an interesting game. These are two teams, like you said, they're kind of going in different directions. Like the Steelers, they have a long-term view. Is Tomlin coming back? The Falcons feel like a fresh start kind of deal, new quarterback. I don't know if I would touch this game, but if I did, I would like the Steelers +3 and a slight favor to the under. What about you? You have anything you're looking for?
Really just looking at, can Russ and Pickens get it going early?
Yeah.
I think Kirk will, acclimate himself pretty easily with the weapons there with Pitts and London and Bijan. Russ is weird because it's you go back and forth on this is Russ cooked thing. He really didn't have a terrible year last year. It just seemed like it wasn't going to happen in Denver. But Cortland Sutton was productive with Russ. And not that George Pickens is the same player, but I think he can win in a lot of those same ways downfield. We know Pickens will be loud and frustrated should he not be involved, and I love George Pickens. So I'm most interested to see if Russ can get Pickens going early, because there's not a lot of real, the Ayuk trade didn't happen, right? There's not a lot of, big eye-popping name at wide receiver 2 for the Steelers with Deontay out of town. So that's what I'm looking at. Can Pickens get going early as kind of the real lead guy there for now? Any final predictions in this one?
No, just interested to see how the Falcons offense operates. We're incredibly high on them. So
yeah,
I'm looking forward to that. So I will be watching this game. This might be on my, my fourth monitor or whatever, but I will have this game on for sure during the 1 o'clock slate.
Arthur Smith revenge game. People forget.
That's true.
Arthur Smith revenge game. People forget.
Not fantasy managers.
Bad head coach. Was a good OC in Tennessee though. So we'll see. I should add that's the one other thing. Like how much work does Najee get? We know that Arthur Smith wants to run the ball. So Najee's a real take your medicine fantasy pick, I think, a lot of the time, but I think he's going to get a lot of work.
Great value for fantasy too, right?
Yeah. All right, next on the secondary matchups list, we've got the Arizona Cardinals at the Buffalo Bills. I think this is a fun game.
Yeah.
Because I don't know that the Cards, I don't know that, where they finished last year. I don't know if that's really indicative of who they are. Like, I know the team still needs help. They finished 4-13 a season ago.
Right.
The Bills, obviously, the exact opposite, almost 11-6, won the division. I don't know. I think the Cardinals will be better than that, given some key additions. But what are you looking at with the numbers on this one?
Yeah, this is our biggest spread so far that we've covered. It opened up at +7, and now there's some 5.5s popping, but it's mostly sitting at +6. And the total, it's pretty much holding steady at 48. There's some 48.5s you can get. This is another game where there's two teams kind of heading in two different directions. The Bills are a little bit older. I mean, they've gotten younger at some positions, but they're going through some injuries, and the Cardinals are really, they're building through the draft. They're doing it right finally. Kyler is kind of being slept on.
For sure.
Yeah. So I don't know. With this game, I had this as a 19-27 Bills win. So with that being said, I like the Bills at -7. I just don't know if I'm running to the window to bet the Bills -7 week 1 with some of their defensive injuries and just new guys. And I don't know about that, but I do kind of like the under at 48.5. That's interesting. I know, again, that's not sexy with these two teams. They should be throwing the ball around, but I think I like the under there, 48.5. What about you? You got any leans or,
I like the under. I'm curious as to just how good will Marvin Harrison Jr. be in week 1. I think from last I saw, the line for him from a player prop was 60.5 receiving yards. And I think that's a smash over.
Yeah.
Like, I think that is he hasn't played an NFL game. Here's where we got to put it.
Right.
And man, I don't know. I just think Kyler is going to feed Marv. There hasn't been a single negative thing we've heard about him this offseason. He's done everything you'd expect him to at camp.
It's almost been very quiet, right?
Yeah, right. Like I almost expect, it feels crazy to say this about a rookie receiver in their first game, but I almost expect Marv to cruise past 100 yards.
Yeah.
I really do. Just because I think Kyler is going to absolutely feed him. So that's really what I'm looking at. I totally agree about Kyler being undervalued, slept on. We're forgetting how good Kyler Murray is when he's out there and healthy. Like he's a very good player. That's it's been on tape. It's been on stat sheets. Like Kyler Murray's a very good football player. And I think just, not seeing a full year of him maybe has that down a little bit. But the Kyler, I feel like it's easy as a fantasy person to keep saying this, but the Kyler Marv, does that connection get going early? That's what I'm most interested in, or what I'm looking at most. Any final thoughts or predictions on this one?
No, that's it. I think the under is a pretty fair play, but I don't know if I'm running to play that. So the under and the Bills -7 are my leans.
All right. Next, we've got Texans Colts division matchup. We got the Houston Texans visiting the Indianapolis Colts. Another two teams that we've talked about a lot. The Texans won the division last year, 10-7. The Colts were 9-8 with Gardner Minshew after Anthony Richardson missed most of the year. He's back. Pretty excited for this one. I think this will be a pretty good game. two teams that I think are matched up more evenly than people would like to admit. What are the numbers telling you on this one? I know it looks like it opened at the Texans -1.5.
Yeah. It opened Texans -1.5. Now it's out to 2.5. And total has jumped from 47.5 to 49.5. Sorry. Yeah, there's some 49.5 out there. There's some 48.5s out there. There's some 49s. So somebody with some decent influence, I guess, is likes the over, but I do not.
Yeah,
I do not. I score this game as a basically last person with the ball wins, 23-22 Texans. So I like the Colts +2.5 if I were to bet on on the side there. And again, it's a theme of this week. I like the under 48.5. I think that's a pretty safe play. What about you? You got anything you're looking at here? Any
I agree. Like I said at the beginning, I'm kind of in on week one unders, I think, in general, most of the time, unless it's something is really jumping off the page. But I like the Colts +2.5. Like I said, I think these teams are a lot closer than people want to admit. I know Stroud is the talk of the town, talk of the league. Anthony Richardson's a really talented football player. He really is. And not saying he's CJ Stroud. They're different players. They do different things. But we saw the impact Anthony Richardson can have on a game. And if he can stay healthy this year, and by all accounts he's healthy now, it would not shock me at all for the Colts to come out and win this one. I think that, and I agree with the under because I think both of these teams will play defense. You know what I mean? Like the Texans have a good defense. The Colts, I think, have a better than talked about defense. Yeah, I guess what I'm really most looking forward to is Anthony Richardson, who we saw early in the season last year, does he come out and, take over the game? And what's the pecking order of the Houston wide receivers? Because I still think Tank Dell is going to be Stroud's guy there when he's out there and healthy. Yeah. Any final thoughts on that one from you?
Yeah, well, just talking about Tank, I mean, people forget how much Diggs kind of fell off last year.
Yeah.
He really didn't do much for the Bills at the end of the year. And I have these teams about 1.5 separated. Obviously, I have Houston a little bit better, but man, I think I haven't bet it yet, but this might be a Colts money line or an under type game. But with the 2.5, this might be a teaser. This might be a teaser I might be tossing out later on. So I like this game, division game.
Yeah.
Early in the year, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that's a fun one for sure. All right, last one we had on the list of secondary matchups before we hit the rest of the slate. Dallas Cowboys at the Cleveland Browns. Cowboys opened up the favorites. This is not the case any longer.
Yeah. Well,
the Cowboys a season ago win the division 12-5. The Browns are they're a weird enigma of a team. Like they went 11-6. They made the playoffs. Their quarterback might be really bad. Like it might just be like a great roster with a bad quarterback who's still got a big name that they gave up a ton of capital for and owe a ton of money to. What are the numbers telling you in this one, Cowboys Browns? I think it's interesting that the Cowboys opened the favorites and now Cleveland has swung that way.
Yeah, I mean, crossing 0 there to 2.5 is not like a huge move. I know we talked about that, before we recorded, but it means something, right? Somebody. Yeah. I mean, the Browns are home. The people love the Browns defense, and rightfully so. I mean, they're good, a great defense. I have these teams. Let's see. Where's the Cowboys at? Sorry, here. Okay, yeah. I have the Cowboys at a 3.6, and I have where are the Browns? Okay, at a 1.7. So I think the Cowboys are a better team according to my numbers. The total opened up at 43.5, and now it's sitting at 42. When I ran everything, I have this game going 26-21 Cowboys. I would like the Cowboys -1. Well, not even -1.5 now. That must have changed just last night because I put my numbers in. I was doing that last night or the night before. So that happened just recently, that changed. So that's interesting because you really can't get big money bets up yet, for like the big groups and the big time players. So, and again, I actually like the over here, which is interesting because These were two pretty good defenses, but yeah, I mean, I have that going over by what, 6 points? No, 4 points. Sorry. Yeah, so that's a pretty fair margin. So I'd be looking at the Cowboys in the over. What about you? Got anything you're looking at here?
I think this is another one where you're playing the big names. I'm probably most interested because I guess two things. I'm most interested to see, can somebody establish themselves in the Dallas passing game besides Jake Ferguson and CeeDee Lamb? Like, is that Jalen Tolbert? Is it somebody else? And on the Browns side, Jerry Jeudy got himself a nice little extension there after the trade. Is Jerry Jeudy like a capable number two for them, and somebody that you could feel confident in starting in fantasy? Like I'm not going to be rolling him out in lineups week one unless it's a bad shape rebuild kind of dynasty team.
Yeah.
But I think that he could be better than people are expecting for fantasy. We'll see, but that's what I'm looking at most in this one.
The Browns have an interesting group of receivers. Sorry to cut you off there. They have an interesting group. Yeah, it's like nobody's. I mean, they got Amari Cooper, but like Jamari Trash, is it Thrash? Yeah, Thrash. Your boy Eli.
Yeah, Elijah Moore.
Yep.
Hey, if Jerry Jeudy can be a capable number two for them, I like Elijah Moore as a 3.
Yeah, and I have so much, like an obscene amount of Cedric Tillman. And I'm just waiting for him to pop. And I don't think it's going to happen with Deshaun, but he's all over my dynasty rosters.
All right, let's hit the rest of the slate. Some quick thoughts on the rest of these games. Sunday, 1 o'clock, we got Vikings at your New York Football Giants. No J.J. McCarthy. So Sam Darnold coming back to MetLife. Sam Darnold's revenge game?
I don't know. The Vikings opened up +1. Now they're the favorite -1. Again, that's not substantial, but it is something. And the total's been holding steady at 41. This game, I have the Vikings winning 22-19, but I don't like. That's just going off last year's numbers with Kirk Cousins and the corpse of whatever Giants offensive line. So I could see this game as a coin flip game. If you wanted to bet on whoever's the money line who's getting plus points, I wouldn't hate that. And I think the over could be interesting here because the Giants secondary is terrible. They have a great pass rush on paper, but the Vikings secondary is pretty terrible as well. And the Giants theoretically should be better on offense. I mean, they were god awful last year. So I might lean the over here. That's something I might look. All right. What do you got? Anything else?
Nothing really crazy besides that. Curious to see if what version of Sam Darnold we get.
Yeah.
You know how it goes with Sam. You get splash weeks. You get some bonehead moments. So I'm rooting for Sam. He has an opportunity here with a good slate of weapons, and I'd like to see him play good football this year. But that's about it. We got Panthers Saints. Another division matchup here. The Panthers head to New Orleans. For me here, it's can Bryce Young. Can he get it going?
Yeah.
Can he get it going? You got any thoughts on this one? Yeah, put a lot of weapons around him.
And they invested in the offensive line, specifically the guards. This opened up at Panthers plus 4.5. You can get some 4.5s. You can get some 4s. The total is opened up at 40.5. It's sitting at 41.5. I like the Saints a lot in this game. I think. I don't know, man. There's just something about the Saints. Like, they're never going to be great. They're never going to win a Super Bowl. But they're just like a middle-of-the-road team that I think can get it done. I have this game going 17-24 with the Saints winning. So I like the Saints -4, 4.5. I think I'm going to lock that one in.
I don't hate it. All right, we got Pats Bengals at 1 o'clock. Pats opened up plus 8.5. Looks like it's 8.5, 9, 9.5 in some spots. That feels right. The Bengals should in theory beat up on them. I don't know. Anytime it gets close to 10, I just start finding myself thinking that's a lot of points. But I don't know. The Bengals are a much better team than the New England Patriots right now.
Yeah, this would be a pass for me. I have this game 18-22, but that's again mostly based off last year's Bengals numbers, which there was, they lost Burrow for a little bit. This could be interesting. The Pats defense might be able to keep them in this game, but this would be a game that I would look to tease the Bengals down to 8.5 to 2.5, possibly. throwing them in with was it the Steelers or something like that.
Yeah. All right, we get Titans Bears on the 1 o'clock slate. Titans opened up plus 4.5. Seems like it's holding pretty steady around there. Is it the Caleb show? I think the Bears might just come out firing the ball all over the place, honestly.
Yeah, this game is like, I mean, if you're betting on it, I mean, you might feel a certain way about it, but these teams are both like dramatic, like they've gotten some dramatic makeovers over this offseason. So it's like, how could you really have an opinion either way? I'd have to see these teams out. With what I'm seeing right now, it's I would, I guess, bet the Titans 4.5, but I have this game going 20-21, Bears winning. Under 45.5 looks kind of good, but again, if Caleb drops 40, I wouldn't be surprised, and the Titans could look better on offense too. So, this game would probably be a pass for me.
But you got to ride or die with your guy Will Levis.
Oh man, the Mayo King, it is.
Raiders Chargers in the late afternoon slate, 4:05. Raiders visit the Los Angeles Chargers. Who's got it better than us? The Harbaugh Chargers.
A lot of people.
Fair. Raiders opened up plus 3.5, hovering right around there still, it looks like.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see the Chargers, though. I am. I know that they're an easy kind of punching bag right now. All the receivers leave. They draft Ladd. I don't know, man. Harbaugh's a good football coach. Yep. The question isn't, is Jim Harbaugh a good football coach? The question is, does Jim Harbaugh's method or coaching style, is it sustainable in the NFL, right? Like, does it fizzle out, burn out eventually the way it did in San Fran? I think this team is going to be a tougher out than people want to give them credit for.
For sure.
Harbaugh's going to have them playing. They're going to play defense. They're going to run the absolute hell out of the ball. So that's what I'm interested in. Like the Raiders, I don't think are a particularly good team, and it wouldn't shock me for the Chargers to kind of come out and put a stamp on like, this is how we're going to play. We're going to
don't
play
forget
Harbaugh
about us.
football. Yeah, like we're going to run the hell out of the ball, run it right at you, right down your throat. And I don't know, can Ladd get going? Can Josh Palmer get going? I don't think Quentin Johnston can get going, but can Ladd and Palmer get going for this team?
Yeah, the Chargers have a lot of just dynasty value if you're willing to take that pill. And is Justin Herbert, is he okay? What's his status? If they're running the ball, that play action with his arm could be lethal.
Yeah,
so
crazy.
I have this game going pretty much a coin flip right now. So I would pass on this.
Broncos Seahawks on the 4 o'clock slate. Broncos opened up plus 4.5. Looks like plus 5.5 in most places, plus 6 here and there. Mm-hmm. I'm not interested in the Broncos.
Yeah,
I'm just not.
Yeah, they're where are they going? What are they doing? They're in a weird spot. It's tough to be a Broncos fan. I feel for you guys because the Giants are kind of in that spot, but there's easier outs for the Giants. But I have the Seahawks winning this game by a touchdown, 27-19. So I like the Seahawks here. I think the over could be interesting too because I think the Broncos defense is they were really highly rated a couple of years ago, and they just keep on losing some guys. But yeah, otherwise, I'll say it right now, I'm a lot higher on the Seahawks now before I did my rankings than I was preseason. I like the coach. Getting rid of Pete Carroll, I think could be a net positive. Look for the Seahawks. I think they could be a sleeper team in the NFC West.
All right, last one we didn't talk about in the 4 o'clock slate. Commanders at Bucks. Washington opened up plus 4, plus 3.5 now in most spots. I think that's a little disrespectful to the Bucks, honestly. Yes. Like the Bucks were pretty good last year, man. And for fantasy purposes, what I come back to with the Bucks is I know that they won the division at 9-8, whatever. It wasn't like a huge record, but this team just ran it back. They just ran it back.
They really just signed everybody back,
which is fine. You get Baker back, Evans back. You still have Chris Godwin. You draft Jalen McMillan. Rashad White's there. You add Bucky Irving. They kept their big guys. They added some supplemental pieces on offense. I know Jaden Daniels is Jaden Daniels, and it'll be interesting to see if he can get going early. But it would not shock me if the Bucs won this game in pretty like commanding fashion.
Yeah. I like the over a lot here, over 43.5. I don't know if it's still sitting at that, but I have this game 26-19 Bucks. I like the Bucks and the over here. I think they're a middle of the road team that they could be, creeping to top 10. They could be reaching for a top 10 overall pick, But I do like what they've done with what they had resource wise. And with the over, I like that because I think Jaden Daniels, he could be just playing, rushing for his life, running for his life, throwing touchdowns or interceptions. And interceptions do help the over as well. So,
yeah, it's fair. All right, Sunday night, we got the Los Angeles Rams against the Detroit Lions. Rams opened up +3. It's like +3.5 now in most spots. Oh, man, the Lions. I think that, can the Rams keep up with the Lions is the question for me.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I don't think they want to play the same game.
Right. That's the
problem. You know what I mean? Yeah. And not that I have a fundamental issue with the way the Rams want to play, but I can see Detroit coming out and just guns blazing, looking to foot on the gas, get out in front of it early. And I don't know if at this stage in his career, Matt Stafford is best suited to be playing catch up like that.
Yeah. I mean, this Lions team was a couple plays away from making the Super Bowl. And I think they want to remind people that I had this game 25-22 Lions. So I don't like the point spread there, but I guess judging by that, I kind of like the under there. But other than that, man, it's going to be a fun football game, but I don't know about betting wise or if I'm really going to lock into that just yet.
It's going to be a fun game. It's going to be a fun week of games. We've given you thoughts on everything that's going to happen Thursday, Friday, all of Sunday. Some big games in there. Some games that, and week one's crazy. Some of the games that we're saying aren't the, sexiest game to look at could end up being great football games. Exactly. We'll learn some things. We'll learn a lot from week one. And we've got a great game on Monday night that we'll talk about later this week when the Jets go into San Fran. Lots of questions. Ayuk signs the deal with San Fran finally. Will Hassan Reddick be out there in any capacity for the Jets? What will Trent Williams be out there in any capacity for the Niners? We'll get into that later this week as we recap the rest of week one and then talk Monday Night Football. Any final thoughts that you've got about any of these games or the week one slate or tips or anything that you want to throw out there before we wrap it up?
Yeah, just lock in, enjoy it, but don't go crazy with the betting just yet. Let these teams, let them show you what they got and kind of, work off your priors, but take some time and sit back and enjoy it,
Yeah, take her easy. Drink it down. It always goes down smooth.
Don't bet the whole board, please. I know, that's like the Barstool, ESPN narrative or whatever, but just, pick your spots.
Yeah. That's reasonable. I respect it. I like it.
Thanks.
All right. We're going to be back, like I said, later this week, recap everything that happened week one, talk about what we're expecting to come on the Monday Night Football game, dive into all of it. It's going to be a blast. If you're watching on YouTube, comment down below. Let us know if there's anything you agree with, disagree with, players that you like that I didn't mention, leans betting-wise that you like that maybe Pete didn't hit on, or if you agree with his takes there. We'd love to hear all of it. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Make sure you hit like. You're not going to want to miss the recap and any of the other videos that are coming the rest of this season. And if you're listening to the podcast, make sure that you're subscribed or following the podcast on whichever podcast platform you're using. Like we mentioned at the top, if you have a couple seconds and can leave us a 5-star rating and drop us a review, that stuff is greatly appreciated. Goes a long way for us and doesn't take a whole lot of time. So we'd appreciate it if you could do that. And we will be back next time we talk. Football is going to have happened. Okay, we're going to have, there's going to be takes, there's going to be stuff to react to. It's going to be a beautiful thing. So we'll be back later this week to dive into all of it, and we will talk to you guys then.
Keep the drive alive. Don't forget to like and subscribe.